G'day, fans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of DNA Reviews. It's our last one, Mr. Aaron. We are finishing. This is a finito grand finales. Yay, team. The trumpets are going off. Everything's fantastic. Andor Season 1 has come to an end. What do you reckon about that?
Who would have thought 10 weeks ago when we started with a triple episode that the journey would have gone on, we've gone on, would have been full of so many amazing high points and great discussions over the last 2 months.
Well, exactly right. And this one's going to be a long discussion because it was a episode jam-packed full of stuffs. And it was particularly cool, particularly groovy. The thing aired about 4 or 5 days ago. People have had a lot of time to sit and think about it and sleep on it effectively. And hopefully we'll, in our discussions, we'll sort of ponder some points worth of topics worth discussing. I'll get the words out eventually to see what people thought of the entire thing. So if people got their points of view that they wish to chuck forward, then please do so. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron?
It was fully stuffed, like you say. It was like a great big Twinkie. And I've watched it 3 times now and enjoyed it every single time. How about you?
Oh, mate, I was just too busy thinking of Twinkies just then. Yes, it's... I'll get through my points of view as we get further along, but there's a lot to digress. So, of course, digest. So, Rick's Road, and of course, I've chucked in the Death Star thing, which was at the end credits. So, I imagine everybody got to see that. And because we're going to show our discussion is going to be completely out of order from how you saw the episode. And of course, as always, we're going to do the spoilers. Now, because I put the Death Star in the promo slide, let's just talk about that first, shall we? So, the funny thing was that at the end, and it was confirmed that the widgets that Cassian and all those dudes were building on Narkina 5 were in fact something that were going to be used and abused, which is good. So remember we discussed that, maybe they were building them up one level and disassembling them on another level. And it was noted that if, because it's obviously for the Death Star, isn't it ironic that Cassian helps build these things? And who knows, that particular one right there might have been something from his table. And of course, the old Death Star ends up killing him. So how's that for a bit of bad irony?
Well, that's what you get for working on genocide, giant genocide killing machines, isn't it? It always bites you in the end.
Indeed. And of course, it was all humans who built these widgets and robots and who installed them, which I thought was quite funny. And of course, yes, a lot of us did actually predict that it was actually for the Death Star back at the time. Yeah. Tracy mentioned it, and so did you, and I sort of agreed with you as well. Which was it was probably a bit of a no-brainer when you sit and think about it. Although when you sit and look at that image, you do wonder. It's like, oh, okay, who would have thought that the Death Star super laser had those things in it in the first place? So anyway,
I would have thought it would have been more fun with the little Geonosians scattering, running around like the little insects, putting it together as they designed it, kind of thing. But I guess in space you've got to have droids, haven't you?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, indeedy. And I tell you what, they've still got a lot to build in 5 years' time. They've got a long way to go because you remember in Rogue One, they actually stick the super laser into the Death Star. So they've got a fair whack to go. There's a lot more widgets. And, of course, we tend to forget that the prison, our Narkina 5 guys got away, but all the other prisons are still going. So they're still churning stuff out. So, yes.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is it gives you a good idea of where they're going next series, where the next series will have to be leading into Rogue One with the rumors of a super weapon and the discovery of a Death Star. This is going to be a fantastic, next series. But tonight we're talking about this episode, not what's coming up, I guess.
Yeah, hold your horses there, old son. So you are right, Colin. Yeah, Cassian is trying to he's building the same Death Star he was trying to destroy. So, yeah, and it was a no-brainer. Don't downplay your comment. I'm not actually. I'm celebrating it because we weren't entirely sure, but I suppose it was a bit of an easy one to sort of guess. But I put your comment up on the screen there, Tracy, because I thought you were in the zone. That's the most important thing. You knew what was going on. So the episode's a bit of a funny one. So the first thing we see is Wilmot, right? Now, this is Wilmot Pack, so this is the dude. And it's clearly, right, he's building the bomb. It's a bit of a no-brainer because we start off him, he's like soldering iron bits and pieces together. A bit of an easy one to sort of figure out. I'll put all these shots together just to make it easier. And, of course, it's a berm. He's going to have a berm. And, of course, the question will be, what's he going to do with said berm? And the reason why he's building it, of course, is the fact that to avenge the father's death, which, of course, is a common trope in the galaxy far, far away. And as Christy will say, no one bothers to avenge the mothers. It's always the dads. What do you reckon?
Well, I did know it was a bomb, but at the same time I was going, surely not on Disney Plus will they be showing a suicide bomber. But there you go. It was a bomb, and I did think it was one of those things that makes the episode. This whole series is a much more adult and a stronger story than a lot of the other things we've seen on Disney. We've mentioned it before. If you're into lasers and lightsabers and that whole area of Star Wars, that's fantastic, and I love that too. But I've really enjoyed the more adult storytelling with the sort of, I guess, heavier subject matter that this series has brought up.
Yeah, and don't forget, everybody. So Salman was the guy who was first interrogated by Dedra, and Tiga had him strung up in Rick's Road, I think it was, which of course was the same fate that Clem had had all those years prior. Speaking of the Dedra, don't you love great looking visual effects? She decides to come. It just looks grass, doesn't it? Good to see. You can never knock a shuttle, an Imperial shuttle, Lambda class shuttle, when you see one. It's like, oh mate, it just pushes your buttons, doesn't it? And of course, when it's like taking 12 episodes, because this shot was in the trailer, when Dedra walks out off the ship with the Death Troopers, finally, after 12 episodes, it decided to pop up. And you look at her demeanor, and it's pretty clear to see that she's thinking, mate, I got this one in the bag. Mate, Cassian is all mine. He ain't getting away this time. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah. Yes, I was thinking overconfidence is yours when it comes to weaknesses. I did think it was amazing. For a second, I wondered if you were going to get a surprise appearance with Vader on his personal shuttlecraft. But when she walked out, I thought that was fantastic as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine them doing that, saying, oh, we'll just chunk in a bit of the old Mr. Darth just for, boost the ratings and get the fan nerds going completely and utterly troppo. Oh, we didn't see that one coming. But no, they didn't do that, which is kind of cool because that just would have upstaged the entire episode. In fact, upstaged the entire series. People would have talked about that and nothing else. So you kind of have to remove good bits just to keep the rest of it in tone.
I don't think they can put Darth Vader in this or next series because then it kind of undermines his appearance in Rogue One. So I think this is one of those things that leads into Rogue One, the appearance of Darth Vader kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. I like the fact that we look at the hotel. It's obviously going to be called the Imperial Hotel. I thought that was kind of cool. So, and of course, the joke of that is that in the city, as in Melbourne, we actually have an Imperial Hotel. And I used to like it because the Star Wars fan club used to actually have their Christmas parties there for a period of time. I thought, oh, mate, not this Rebel Alliance hotel. You can piss that off. Go to the Imperial Hotel. That's where the cool cats hang out.
Did you see what was in every single room?
What?
Sith Bibles.
Very good. And there's only ever a bed for two. Is that right? If there's Sith Bibles in there. So,
yes.
Love it. I thought this was interesting. So one of these things this episode does have to do, which other episodes haven't done, is show everybody. Right? We've got to do the absolute who's who in the zoo. Where are they all? Some episodes were missing certain characters. This one had to show the whole lot. Right? And of course, one of the things we get to see is Bix. And I thought it was interesting. Like the camera turns towards her. So clearly she's moved away from the camera and the camera hasn't moved. And for those who are wondering, or if you didn't pick up on it, it's actually Dedra looking at her in the view screen. So you actually see Bix moving around on the screen right where it's circled. And I thought that's kind of cool. So she's saying, oh my God, no time for dinner. She wants to go and check out the locals. And she's actually looking at Bix on the screen. And I thought that was an interesting, and that's such a subtle detail. Most people probably didn't even notice it. Did you pick up on it?
I did, and what I thought was great was the whole we can get dinner and stuff, and she's like, no, I'm just going to go and get straight into this. Was again a good character piece that shows her dedication and how focused she is, I guess, on this whole situation.
You could see the humorous side of this, right? Tiga says, oh, do you want to go get dinner? And she says, yep, no worries, where are we going? She says, well, the local Ferrix, hang on, not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Ferrix Fried Chicken is just down the road. I'll get you a bucket, Deads. You'll love it.
So you go,
the Colonel's original, actually, the Emperor's original recipe.
Yeah, I've ordered you hot and spicy gungan.
Yep, there we go. Oh, yes, exactly right. You could have a bit of a laugh about that. You did when they said they're going for dinner. I go, oh, that'd be kind of cool to see what that's all about. But no, she's not interested in that. She wants to go around the town. And of course, don't they just stick out, right? Good old Corva. He's been hanging around for a while. You put just the cloak and the hood on Dedra, and it's like, yeah, you kind of do sort of stick out a little bit. And of course, Cinta, how's this? On the ball already. And I thought I was really impressed by that, actually. I thought, yeah, she's not stupid. She's already aware of what's going on, remembering that Cinta's been working in the bar and Corva's been the local sort of patron. and he's got no idea who she is, and she's already got him figured out. I reckon that's absolutely fantastic. So,
I know.
yeah,
I did think it was one of those things where the stormtroopers should have been briefed. Anyone walking around tonight in a cloak, just arrest them, because all of them were major players. You know, the thing with putting a cloak over your head and walking around with your head down, they should be the first people arrested in any city by the stormtroopers. What you need to do is dress like Lando Calrissian. I own the place, and just walk around. Then you know they're not the rebellion kind of thing.
love it. Regarding the FFC, the Ferrix fried chicken, yeah, the Emperor's secret herbs and spices. Yeah, yes, one of those is salt, the other one is pepper, but let's not worry about that.
Made with 100% blue pelican.
Yeah, exactly right. I love it. Christy said Sherlock wannabe stands out because he's always alone. That's a good point. Suddenly Corva's got a bit of fluff wandering around with him. So it's a bit of an absolute classic to sort of work that one out. And yeah, so he's always been on his own. Suddenly he's with somebody. And of course, Cinta would have just been going, oh, yeah, what's going on here? So there you go. Very, very cool. Except Cassian. Sorry, Tracy, you've kind of lost me on that one. So
he wasn't walking around with a cloak on and a hood.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But he does turn up in the middle. I'll talk about it later on. It's kind of funny when it's like, you know, whenever an invasion is going to happen on Earth, it always happens in a country town at night time when there's no one, not a physical human being anywhere out in the streets, which I think is kind of cool. Oh, yeah, no cloaks. Yep, cool.
I did the thing as well. As soon as she says, oh, no stormtroopers, I own the place, let's just go for it. I was like, oh, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you're not wrong. So there's a lot going on. So Brasso has learned that Cassian is coming into town, right? And he's it's like, okay, everything's because we all knew this because he's turning up for Maarva's funeral, and you do wonder how that's going to work. Now, Nurchi, I mean, he's standing there on the right-hand side there, is clearly twigging as to something's going on. And I kind of like this because you get into the bar sequence, right? And, of course, as the old saying goes, the best way to get information out of a person is just, light them up with liquid, so to speak. And, of course, I do like the fact that he said, well, if something's going on, I don't want to know about it, which, of course, means exactly that he does want to know about it. I actually thought that was really well done and really well written, because at that point, you don't really know what Nurchi's on about, right? And, of course, this dude, he's having a worried look on your face just doesn't help, right? And, of course, it's important for people to remember why, if they're wondering why Nurchi turned on Cassian, is because he wasn't a fan of him in the first place. If you remember from like one of the really early episodes when Cassian was on Ferrix, Nurchi, I remember he had the big dude behind him. It's like, mate, you're scamming me out of all this money. What's the deal with that? So clearly Nurchi's not a fan of Cassian, because in this series, everybody loves Cassian effectively, right, except the bad guys. And you sort of think on Ferrix he's like the coolest kid in town, but not everybody thinks that way. And I think that's kind of cool.
What I did think, it is a really good society where you've got, the other guy who's kind of the leader of the unions and keeps everyone in place, who is kind of Cassian's friend and does help him. And then you've got other people in day-to-day life that don't like him. And it is just like real life. It's not like it's been written for a show where there's black and white. There are very grey lines in this series, and you can't always guess everyone's motivation, which makes it an interesting watch.
Well, that's a good point, because, in a lot of shows, it's just very easy to say, well, this is this dude. Everybody loves this dude. Aside from the bad guys, all the good guys love this dude. Can do no wrong, right? It's as simple as that. Yet in this show, that's not the case at all. I mean, Cassian's got all his friends. He had Bix and Tim to a degree. You got Brasso. But, Nurchi said at the start, when we first saw him all those episodes ago, that, you're scamming me out of all this money. What's the deal with that? And Cassian kept brushing him off. So if Cassian did that to him, who else did he do it to? Now, admittedly, after he stole the money from Aldani and he said to Bix, this is the money that you should be able to pay back to everybody, doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be in their good book. So I just thought it was interesting that a local guy, who obviously is being paid by the Empire to be a spy, would actually turn on their own. I thought that was kind of cool. So,
what I think it's very, very, very cool in the different genres of science fiction, where you can have characters, say in Battlestar, like Starbuck and Apollo, who they could do no wrong. Everyone would love them. They're the good guys. It's very black and white. But in this, you've got that sort of other end of more modern science fiction, like The Expanse and things like that, where there's layers of motivation and backstories and things like that. So it's a very different. It's not very different from everything, but it's very different from the general Star Wars, where there's Luke and there's Han and everyone loves them. And there's, I guess you could go, there's Lando, who isn't good to begin with, but then everybody loves him. So it is a really great way to see Star Wars sort of go into that more layered level of storytelling.
Indeed. So if people were wondering why Nurchi turned against Cassian, and obviously it was for the money, that's the reason why. All right, now I've never done this before in this particular series, but this one come up and I thought, oh, I can't say no to that, right? So you wouldn't believe it, guys. It's a nerd alert. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. This one is unbelievably tragic. So how's this, right? Now, when Nurchi goes to the bar, right? There's an alien on the right hand side, on the left hand side. Sorry, so Nurchi's on the right, left of frame out of the shot, smoking a vaping machine, right? And you go, oh yeah, what's the big deal with that? It's an alien sucking on a pipe. Well, believe it or not, that same dude pops up in The Force Awakens on Takadana. What is the deal with that, Mr. Aaron? 39 years later, and he's still puffing the good stuff.
Well, I didn't pick that one up. I thought it looked like Mewtwo from Pokemon was smoking in the corner, but there you go. I didn't notice that. Was that one that you picked up yourself, or did you see that somewhere?
No, I got to admit, someone else pointed that out, and I had to look at it and go, "Oh my god!" And they said it's the same dude. He's just wearing a hat this time. That is tragic, and the reason why, when you look at this, you see this dude. That's the edge of the frame right there on the screen.
Yeah.
So Nurchi's way over to his left. But when I looked it up, I thought, "Oh my god, who would spot that?" And it's the vaping dude apparently. So, oh yeah, how do fans spot these things? Unbelievable.
Well, it is funny, isn't it? Where because we grew up without the internet, there are still things that people find in the original trilogy that we never saw before, and then something like Andor comes out, and people discover all the Easter eggs within a week. It is just a different way of over-analyzing and how people watch these shows.
Yeah, and the fact that dude was on the right hand side of the screen, just barely in frame. Someone's gone, oh, I recognize him. Oh, hey, he was in bloody Force Awakens. I was like, holy shit, man! Freaking Star Wars fans. Tell you what, need their heads read. All right, so as I said, the whole sequence. I'm showing the entire episode out of sequence just for our simplicity. So there you go. Same race, different dude. Do you think so? I don't. I mean, it's just been chucked in. It's not meant. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I mean, it's the same guy wearing the same hat in one episode, but he's still sucking the thing. Who knows? The fact that they're whatever it is still smoking a pipe or whatever it is, that's just anyway, whatever. An Easter egg. It's as simple as that. All right. Yep. So as I said, the entire episode we're sort of showing it out of sequence, right? So what we do is we jump right over Coruscant and we're in the car with Mon, right? And who knew that she actually had a shifty side to her? I've never seen it before. And remember in previous episodes, I've said to you, there's hardly been any traffic in Coruscant. Well, in this sequence, there's cars everywhere in the background, including one that lands back here, right? I was really impressed by that because that's that extra added detail that we love. And of course, when Perrin gets in the car, mate, tell you what, she starts accusing him that he's gambling again. What's the deal with that, Mr. Aaron?
Well, I thought this was really, really smart, but it ended up not going the way I thought it would go. Because you obviously know he has gambled in the past and he probably is still gambling at present, and he just doesn't think that she knows. But she's obviously trying to hang the whole, all this money's gone missing from my account on his gambling problem.
Well, that's exactly right. Now, before I get to the next picture, I was just talking about the cars in the background. I don't know if you even noticed it, but they actually had reflections of the cars in the bodywork of this car. That was very groovy. That's an added bit of detail you just do not see. And I chucked that in because remember I like these little details. So did you see that just very quickly?
I did. I'm very into the way things are filmed, and this whole series has been filmed beautifully, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Tracy's right on the ball, threw him under the bus, and she knew that Clovis, would actually listen into what was going on. So she's accused him of gambling. He's saying, well, I haven't, you're obviously getting people doing shifty things with you. She even says to go to bugger off to Canto Bite, which I thought was a nice little gag. And you are absolutely correct. It's all about ensuring that the ISB think that all of her financial transgressions have been through him, not through her. And he actually says, where would I get the money? And she says, where indeed? Oh, who knew she was going to do this? And I think the reason behind it all is quite simply she realizes there's a bigger picture at play, right? And she can't get captured. She's got to find a way out of it. There are ways of fixing everything that's going on, but it's going to take some massive sacrifices. And as we know, Perrin is going to be clearly one of them. And the poor bastard, he's probably hasn't been gambling at all. it's just something she's made up, pulled it out of fresh air, right? He's gone on the massive defensive, saying, no, I haven't. And Cloris is listening. Cloris has been listening in. And, yeah, that's it. Gone.
Well, I think I get the idea. He probably has been gambling a little bit, like going down and having a flutter once a week, and down the track they're going to come and go, "Were you gambling?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, I was, officers." They're like, "What have you done with 300,000 credits or whatever?" And it'll be like, "Whoa, no," like not knowing anything about it, kind of thing. Who knows?
Well,
but I do think it is smart, because obviously we have banking systems, and even if she's going to get the money replaced somewhere, that amount of money has got to flag something where they're going, why is this person putting money in, where's the money gone to, and all of that. And I think this is an extra way that if that investigation ever does happen, there's reasons why the money moving around can look suspicious without it being her giving money to the rebellion.
Well, that's right. And if anything, she might even wise up Jesus, the other guy, Tavo. No, I've forgotten his guy. Her childhood friend from Chandrila, to say, well, if the investigation does occur, make sure you say, I don't know, Mon had nothing to do with it. Must be Perrin who's doing all the shifty stuff, and the guy's going to be screwed. So there you go. Very good. I was wondering what you said there. So you said Mon, the hero of every pissed off wife. Well, that's exactly right. And yeah, she's just realised. For all we know, that party that they came from, like parents womanizing again, whatever, Mon's in the background thinking, oh, this is enough. So this sits in the car, thinks, all right, this is what we're going to do. And it's all over Red Road before him. And because from his perspective, remember we said this all those episodes ago, the world is good. He loves life. It's fantastic. He's got the great house. He's got the great job. He's got all the money. He's got the power, the prestige. And suddenly it is all going to fall apart. And she will just say, no, he is at fault. He did it. So, yeah. As I said, Empire is less likely for gambling and money going. Yeah, well, that's right. So, yes, she's clearly worked out what his fate will be. But that was interesting, because I don't know if you saw that coming. I certainly didn't coming, that she was just suddenly going to turn on him like that. And it's like, oh, dude, how's that?
Well, I did think she was doing it as one last way to get out of having to introduce her daughter to the other guy's son. But it didn't go that way anyway. So it is actually purely her being sneaky and giving that extra level of protection if there is any investigation into money going missing.
Yeah. I mean, imagine the scenario. You just sit in the car and she goes, you've been gambling again. He goes, what? No, I haven't. It's like, yes, you have. It's like, well, we want privacy from the driver, and the driver's listening in. Oh, just not friendly.
Yeah.
But yes, it will have the desired results probably in the not too distant future. So we jump over to Ferrix. Okay. Now this is cool. Val reappears, right? Hasn't seen Cinta in ages. And Cinta's too busy. Like, she's in the zone, mate. It's like, oh my God. She's been too busy following Corva and Dedra. Doesn't give a shit about Val at all. And I thought, and I tell you what, I'm not used to seeing Val looking the same way as she did in Eldani, because, obviously in a Coruscant scene, she's all dressed up with a nice hairstyle and whatever. And it's pretty clear in this sequence that, she realizes that Cinta is just all about the mission more than anything else. And so whatever relationship they had in Eldani, because remember, they were there for 3 months. I mean, it's taken a bit of a hit here, even though we don't see the end of the scene, when Cinta turns away from the window. You would have to think that things are going to be a tad rocky. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, when they do little scenes like this, it is really good at character building, but also on emphasizing how important the mission is. And I think from this point of the episode all the way through, everyone sort of comes together, and it's all about what's going to happen at the funeral, what's going to happen between the different factions. And in real life, when that stuff is happening, relationships go to the wayside. You've got to concentrate because you are in the middle of a mission, and you can see that happening here. And that's a very good way of building the tension and placing how much emphasis of importance there is on what's happening.
Yeah, because it's funny, because when Cinta comes into the room and Val says, here I am, you think, oh my God, it's great, it's wonderful, hugs and kisses all around. Nah, straight into the binoculars, out the window. Oh, you wouldn't believe what I just saw. Oh, cop that, if you don't mind, umpire. Bit unfriendly. This is about Mon Mothma. It would also clear her mind about selling off the daughter. No money involved now. Well, all of this is just covering her bases, because there is a bigger picture at stake here. And unfortunately, there has to be ways of clearing the slate, keep herself innocent, regardless of what it personally costs her, right? So, but we'll cross the leader thing later on. So we talked about this earlier. So back on Ferrix still, Middle of the night, Cassian turns up. Now, how he got there is anybody's guess. Now, we know that they've released lowered the restrictions on air travel, so clearly he's just flown in from somewhere, sneaking around. What are the chances there's nobody there? How lucky is that? So you must have turned up in the wee small hours. And he actually goes to see Clem's brick. Now, I didn't even realise this in the first time I saw it, what was going on, because we know that the people who die in Ferrix, they turn into a brick. But I didn't realise that was Clem's brick. And that's why I couldn't work out why he was like really upset about it, even though we had the flashback sequence with Clem and a young Andor, Cassian. And of course, I like this sequence because it showed us that Clem was not only just a wise guy, a wise man, a good father, a teacher, but he also knew understand the process of planned obsolescence and consumerism. And I thought it was a really, really nice moment.
Yeah, it is one of those things that is a constant theme in a galaxy far, far away. When you're on the bottom of the pile, you're often scavenging and reusing and reselling stuff, because we saw Rey doing the same thing when she's going through the old Death Star. So when the Emperor's gone and the Empire's gone, it doesn't fix poverty and things like that. It's still all going on.
Well, as he says, he's got parts that when they were brand new, there were 500 credits. Now people have just already replaced them with other credits. I mean, it's almost like the analogy you could say about smartphones. People upgrade smartphones when the one that they've got now works perfectly. Nothing wrong with it. But it's all about the bells and whistles of the next one, right? Even if they don't use those bells and whistles. So as we've said before, there's a lot of the dialogue in this show replicates what happens in the real world here. And you go, oh, I can see where they're coming from this. So imagine he's got like all these, Apple iPhone whatevers, which work perfectly good, but they've been superseded by 1 or 2 generations later for features that people don't use. So
when you've got droids with emotions like R2 units, imagine how they feel when the BB units come out and everyone goes, oh, these cool BB units. Now all the R2 units are obsolete.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you do wonder with droids, don't you? When they see the latest shiny thing walking down the street and go, hey, what's the deal with that? Yes, right. Watto would be impressed, and that's probably where a lot of his business comes from. So remember, Nubian, we have lots of those. So, yes, I like this, right? So Cassian jumps into where Bix would normally be living, right? And I've got to say, you're lucky. Those Corellian hound dogs are on a long leash, and that's the leash that's right across the screen. That is a damn good one. And, of course, that's where Cassian learns about Bix's fate from the guy's name is Pegler, by the way. But those freaking Corellian hounds are a pain in the ass, huh? I don't even know how they've done them. I don't know if they've got real dogs and put stuff on them. I mean, as we've seen with goats, it's just extra horns, and pelicans, you just paint them blue. But these guys, I don't know how they made those.
Dogs, you leave them in Chernobyl for a couple of weeks.
Nuke them till they glow, I'll tell you what. Now, this is one of those things that was visually put on the screen. It didn't mean anything. It didn't even advance the story. It didn't even actually happen. But it was the approaching storm. Right, there was a storm brewing in the city, and it's of course obviously the symbolism of what that means. But it never actually rained the entire time in the episode, so I thought that was kind of cool. But that is clearly an indication of saying, well, you're not going to believe what's going to be coming up, and I quite like that. And of course, that's Luthen off the right hand side checking things out. So because we knew something was going to happen. There's obviously the funeral. Every man and his woofer is turning up to Ferrix, all primarily looking for Cassian. What could possibly go wrong, Mr. Aaron?
Well, when you were saying about they loosed up the restrictions on Border Patrol so people could come in, I did think, wouldn't it be easier than trying in this huge crowd to try and find someone hidden in the city? Just anyone who comes in the 3 days before the funeral, just take all of them onto Star Destroyers and go through them one by one?
Well, yeah, I mean, you would think, though, Cassian would, if he flew into the exits hyperspace outside of Ferrix, sees 10,000 Star Destroyers, you say, all right, I can't get through. I'm just going to, can I just do a Zoom meeting of Maarva's funeral and leave it at that? He just fly off again. So they obviously want him to make him feel comfortable. He's landed on Ferrix. He doesn't suspect a thing, right? And the reality is he kind of doesn't, right? So everybody's looking for him. If you ask Cassian, do you know who's looking for you? He's going, I've got no freaking idea. Everybody, even people you don't know. So, yeah. So that's the thing. It's meant to be a comfortable thing for him, but of course he's wised up about it. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, it is interesting as well, and you brought this up in a couple of episodes, how there's different people, and you'll see a scene, and one of the other people isn't involved in the scene, but you see them walk through the background. Yeah. And I kind of feel they've been doing this thing where they're getting closer and closer in every episode, and now we've got to the episode where all of them are going to meet up, and it's all going to go down.
Yes. I like this from Christy. Taking everybody onto a Star Destroyer would make sense. That's why the Empire wouldn't do it. Yeah, exactly right. And Tracy made a comment about Luthen at the end of the show. We will get to the end of the show at the end of the show. So sit tight, Trace. We're getting there. All right. Now, we finally get to see Karras's manifesto. So, as you know, Cassian's reading this off a Kindle. It has both video and audio, which is kind of cool. So it was actually Karras's voice, which is particularly cool. And the sad thing is, I thought about this afterwards, right? Considering his massive sacrifice for the rebellion in the Aldani heist, no one's ever going to know who he is. He's just long forgotten. Remember, even when after they all died from the heist, I think it was Claire said, "Oh yeah, they'll be remembered." It's like, yeah, they're not going to be remembered by anybody. So I get the feeling that he wrote his manifesto, gave it to Cassian. Cassian's obviously reading it, and it's a bit of a big deal for him. But for the most part, good old Karras's involvement is just going to be lost in time. So there you go.
Yeah.
And a couple of big comments there. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction, and one single thing will break the siege. And it's excellent writing and excellent dialogue. And I've got to admit, you do want to read that manifesto now. Think, dude, mate, that is awesome. What do you reckon?
All the writing was good in this, and everybody got to have their own spotlight, I think, as well.
That's true. And the key thing is Karras's words actually relate to the real world. You listen to some of the dialogue and you go, I can think of some countries and some places and some people and this and that. That is exactly what's going on. And ironically, not wanting to delve into this discussion, about the whole thing of like one single thing will break the siege and whatever. Look at what's happening in China at the moment, right? So it's very clever. It's how you see what's happening in the real world, translating into text for the galaxy far, far away, but people who are paying attention can go, you know what, that actually still relevant to here. And that's why I think people are really dialing into it, because it's not so far-fetched dialogue. It's actually really stuff that can resonate with people. And I think that is very impressive.
I think not just in Star Wars, but you and I have seen a lot of movies and we discuss them. And one of the things that annoys us is when we talk about scenes and go, but people would never do that, and they do it in this movie. Or, if you were in that situation, that's the last thing you would do. And in Andor, they've avoided all of that. It's either been something that the writing's been so good that you believe it, even if it is far-fetched, or it is just what everyone would do in the situations that they've been put in.
Yeah. And you are right, with a show like this where you can have long stretches of really good character development or dialogue, they're able to do that. There's no extraneous fluff, which we see in a lot of Star Wars series where it's easy listening, right? It goes in one ear and out the other, whereas this, you got to listen to it, you take it in, you go, there's something very deep and meaningful about that. And a lot of people are still referring to Luthen's speech on Coruscant when he was talking to Lonnie, right? His big, long spiel about why he sacrificed everything for the Empire, for the Alliance. And a lot of people are really dialed into what he said. And for that reason, you don't get that in any other series.
Well, when we were reviewing the Book of Boba Fett, we had whole episodes. We were discussing about what's the meaning of the tree visions and all of this kind of stuff. And when it got to the end of the series, there was nothing. But this series, you can go back and watch the series again, and everything is like building blocks, bricks. They build on top of each other. And we've got to the end of the series, and it all does make sense, and it's all coming back into play.
Yep, exactly right. Now, I like this one. This is kind of cool, right? We haven't seen one of these at all. You remember when Oron Aldani and Karras built the model of the dam? Bugger that. Let's go the full hologram treatment. Look at this. Check this out, eh? So I thought that was a particularly groovy hologram image. We're good to see it's a bit of funky technology for a change. And as mentioned, they did actually reduce the air traffic control to allow everybody in. And of course, everybody did come in. Cassian came in, and Luthen came in, and Bell came in. Mate, even like Cyril and Linus. Mate, every man and his wolf has turned up because they've released the air restrictions. How lucky is that?
Well, that's the other thing. Cyril Khan is known by the security. Would he really have been able to get in without them going, hey, this is a guy we've been talking to and looking at? I guess so, but because it happened.
He's a civvy, he's just a civilian. He's just rolling in. But it's just kind of funny that because the air traffic is not as tight as it would be normally, they've just allowed the whole lot in without even realizing they've done that. Now we go back to the ISB. It was Cloris. I had to try. You got to remember the driver's name, right? It's important because Perrin never could. So Cloris does report back to Blevin about the Mon Perrin chat, right? So he was listening, paying attention, and of course they're now thinking that Perrin's up to something shifty, which is kind of cool. This I found interesting. This dude, Captain Allegret, just stands there and listens to what's going on. Isn't that an interesting bit of filmmaking? Normally, a dude will just run straight in and go, "Oi, check what's going on with Anto Krieger down the next room." But this guy stands and listens, and I wonder why they did this. There's got to be, as we've said before, this show, everything means something, and this guy just stands there and listens to I've got the guy's name. Yeah, Cloris talking to Blevin. And what did you think? What did you make of that? It could be nothing, but it's
I
very
did
rarely
think there
do
was going to
things
be a
turn out to be nothing in
callback,
the
and
show.
he went and reported on what was being discussed to someone, but it didn't happen. They're obviously, I think it is one of those things because they're in the security service. Anything that can give them a leg up on anyone else, and that might be information that someone else in the department doesn't know. If they can know it, it's going to help them in the future, because it's a dog eat dog place to work when you win the Empire.
That's exactly what it's all about, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if Legret does something with Cloris later on to say, "No, don't listen to Blevin. He's got no frigging idea. Get your shit back to me, son." Because there's an interesting sequence coming up with the 3 Imperial officers later on, which I think is kind of groovy. And you know what? I was thinking this, and we're talking about security on with the Empire. We don't know, they don't use facial recognition. Well, yeah, we know that. Despite how fantastic their holograms might be, this is, I think, is an interesting one. I don't know if you read it this way, but I did. The way that Cloris had reported about the Perrin Mon incident, and Blevin says, "Keep your eyes on him," right? And Blevin walks out of the room. Is it possible, right, that Cloris is actually more devoted to Mon than anyone realizes, because she knows his name, whereas Perrin doesn't? Remember that. It was part of the gag from all those episodes ago. Doesn't remember the driver's name, whereas Mon does. And maybe because Mon knows he's part of the ISB, does she treat this guy really, really well to get into his good books? So do you think that's possible?
Well, with the level of writing and forethought in this series, it's absolutely possible. It's just one of those things. It's like peeling back layers of an onion. You don't know when it comes down to it until the reveal is which side of the aisle he's going to sit on.
Well, you look at that image of him, right? Now, he's been told to keep an eye on what's going on. He's not going, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to get all the juicy goss." He actually doesn't look all that happy. So
No.
I think that he is sticking, because like Blevin had said that, they're keeping an eye on Mon. I wouldn't be surprised if he's thinking, no, Perrin's the bad dude in this case. Mon's actually really good. And I wouldn't be surprised. So
He's probably thinking, this job is boring as hell. All she ever does is drive out to the antique shop and buy antiquities.
Yes, Galactic Antiquities and Objects of Interest. A better name for a shop other than Aaron's Collectibles you'll never find. All right, so this is interesting, right? The Anto Krieger thing, which you never got to see any of, right, it's going down, right? So the 3 dudes get together. It's done and dusted, and of course there are no prisoners. They've killed everybody, and you do wonder if that was Lonnie who had stuck his nose in for that. Remember when he told Partagaz, "Oh, we should investigate the ship because that's part of what the ISB would do." Maybe he had a hand in saying to his troops, "Well, make sure you kill everybody," right? Because clearly he's working for Luthen, and I think there's possibly something about that. And of course, Dedra's not happy. Like you can't interview dead dudes, right? Yet I work on the View, because you've seen the 3 guys here. I reckon they're quietly happy about the fact that she's pissed.
Yeah, I was actually thinking they did it at this time because she knew she wasn't around. And I actually think if she was there, in the room to try and make it, I don't think they would have saved anyone. I think they would have been, nah, they're all gone. This is how the mission's going. You can't interview any of these people.
Yeah, my gut feeling is that Lonnie stuck his beak in, said to whoever the troops were, "Nah, kill them all, Anto Krieger and all the guys, right? Not to be, so they can't be held, interviewed, right?" Dedra's on the horn to Partagaz saying, "Well, I'm not happy you can't interview dead guys." And the 3 guys are going, "Well, look at that. She's finally taken one for the team. She's finally stumbled because they don't like her." Remember, even though she's been in the series from the beginning, as far as the in-universe is concerned, she's only been in the ISB for a handful of months, right? And she's obviously making waves. And the dudes, because Blevin doesn't like her, because remember he got the arse out of Ferrix because of her. And Lonnie, of course, is a rebel spy. Legret, I don't know what his story is, but she was showing them all up, right? So if she stumbles, they're going to be happy about it. And this is an example of saying, "Oh, there are no prisoners. That is too bad. So sad, Dedra." And so they're not going to be saying, "Well, there you go."
Yeah. Well, it is one of those things where it all is all fine until everything goes wrong, and they go, "Gee, we wish we had some people to interrogate." And then,
That
then Lonnie gets the ass, and Dedra gets a promotion.
That's exactly right. So, of course, Partagaz, and this is his point of view, he just wants to wrap it all up so he can go back to the Emperor and say, yeah, it's all good. We found the Aldani criminals, knocked them all off, done and dusted. Okay, you can file that report away like you would with the Primors. But, of course, he knows that's not true. They're still looking for Axis, which, of course, is Luthen, right? And he knows that's the one that they want. And, of course, you can tell that he's like really getting stuck into Dedra saying, find Axis in. I was thinking when he said that, it's like, dude, if only you knew what was going to be happening very, very soon. So, unbelievable.
Yeah. So it was another good scene that shows the different machinations of different factions who work for the Empire, who all went to be working towards the same goal, but because the Empire is so much, you've got to look after yourself, otherwise you get force choked or whatever. It's never going to run as smoothly as it should.
Indeed. So there you go. So that sort of wound up that part of the situation. So the whole Anto-Krieger thing, I mean, it was very funny. They all discussed it. We never got to see. We get to see it from the point of view of the characters. They never get to see it either, right? So it's all just reports and whatever else. So I guess for some people, you'd be going, oh, it's a shame we didn't get to see it, but I don't know if we needed to see it. It wasn't part of the story anyway. So, yeah, sorry, dude.
We see it later in the episode. We will discuss it, but everyone in the Empire should be on the same page, and they're so not, where you've got Dedra going, do not shoot anyone, do not kill anyone, and then you've got the other guy going, oh, I'm getting trigger happy, kill everyone, kill them all, and you're just like, that is not what you were ordered to do. Are you really just a psychopath, or do you think this is going to benefit the Empire in some way?
So, but that's the thing. Dedra would have said, oh, we want prisoners, and Lonnie or someone has just overruled her and said, nah, knock them all off, right? And, of course, we said that later on in the whole setup for the funeral, where Tega's saying, yeah, we'll have snipers here, there, and everywhere. He's ready to plug puppies left, right, and center, and she's going, no. Anyway, so it's just the history repeating itself as far as she's concerned. All right, so we go over to Mon's house, right? This was an interesting moment. So we get to see what's going on with Lita, right? Now we think the character's name is Davo. That's the shifty dude. We're calling him Davo, because we're Australians here. So she is letting Lita go effectively for Davo's money, right? So Perrin's going to get pinged for gambling debts that he didn't acquire. And, of course, Davo is going to be the one who fixes everything up, which I thought was interesting. And you get to see what the dude looks like. Now, his name was a Stecken, I think it is. But I went for the gag of saying he's little Davy by his friends. But, so I think Mon, once again, has said, well, I'm going to lose Perrin, and Lita's got to go and hook up with this dude. That's it. It's all done and dusted. So
I thought
it was mentioned by Christy earlier on about how Lita just looks at Mon and it's like, oh, well, you know what Mon's doing. She's saying it has to be done. Lose them both because of the bigger picture. What do you reckon?
I thought it played out really interestingly, because both of the kids, who it's big, major decisions, like planning out the rest of their lives almost, they were both nervous, but they weren't unhappy. Neither of them thought, oh, we're getting arranged marriage or stuff. I was quite surprised by that, especially in the earlier episodes where you've seen that she's a bit of a kicks against what her parents want to do and everything. So that was interesting to see. And also because they'd done the thing where they'd thrown him under the bus with the gambling problem, I thought they were going to not go through with it because there was another way. But obviously, to protect herself, she's now got different layers of ways to explain why the money's not there or why it's coming back from different sources and things like that.
So I think from Lita's perspective, even if Stecken had to look like a horse's ass, she would have said, well, I've got to do the Chandrilan thing. And I mean, of course, they can't get married yet. She's only like 14, I think it was. And the kids. Can
you imagine? And this is our adopted son, Bosk.
Sorry, she's 13 and the other dude's 14. But as Davo said, he just wanted to introduce them, and it's clearly it's going to be building up from there. And Lita, of course, is just 100%. Well, this is what we've got to do because it's part of what I've been prepared for, and she obviously certainly doesn't look angry about it. Tracy asked, "Does she still need his money if she's putting the blame on the hubby?" Yes, she still needs the 400,000 credits. So I think she's giving her daughter what she wants with a clear conscience. No, so what she's doing is she's trying to get the money. She needs the 400 grand from Davo, but she needs the Empire to think that Perrin's been wasting it all in all these dodgy transactions for his gambling. So she still needs the money. So,
because a couple of episodes ago they were saying, "Oh, the Imperial banking system is going to look into everyone's accounts. It's inevitable." And now she's got the money back, but there's also a credible reason why it wasn't there. That's how I read the whole situation. At first, I thought she was going to try and get out of having to have the money back because the money was gambled away. It's not that at all. It's so if they investigate, Clovis has said he was gambling money away. So they don't have to go into looking where the money actually went.
So that's why it works for the series, because the whole Mon thing throughout this entire show is all about what am I going to do with all these financial problems? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Leader wants to is disconnected from me. I've got to try and I'm going to get pinged for these missing dollars at some point. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Tell, I think was the name of the other dude. And in the end, it's like, well, the only solution is to take the hardest solution of all, blame Perrin for this. Nick Leader off over there for Davo over there, and it fixes everything, but at what cost? So,
and basically, she's marrying her daughter off into a crime family.
Effectively, yes, because Davo is a bit of a shifty dude, as we well know, and you are right. So now Davo owes Mon. Yes, exactly right. So it's not exactly a marriage made in heaven. Maybe for the two kids it is, but for the partnership will be a bit dodgy. But anyway, and maybe Mon is thinking a few steps ahead. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she's aware of exactly everything that's going on. And marriage could protect the daughter. It could indeed, because she'll be protected by Davo's group. And it's clearly he's a dude with some influence. We zip over back to Ferrix. This is obviously in the gag. Now, of course, Luthen parks at his same parking spot. Right? Now, that's how we know that Cassian finds him later on. So for those who didn't put two and two together, and I like his bike. Now, for those who didn't realise it, I said, mate, the galaxy far, far away needs to take a lesson from Harley Davidson, because when he accelerates, he uses both hands. It's like, dude, motorcycles only use one accelerator. Couldn't help it.
Well, I guess you're right. It's a galaxy far, far away. We don't know how they work, but it is one of those things. It could have been worse. It could have been the Mod Squad bikes.
Don't even go there, dude. That's like swear words in this place. So now Cassian's in town and he's hidden away, right? And of course, it has been noted before that Ferrix has tunnels all over the place, right? That the Empire wouldn't know about. And that's how Cassian gets into the hotel later on, because Maarva was using it to get into the hotel as well. Remember when she was plotting all these rebel activities? So the fact that the Empire doesn't know about it makes complete sense. And of course, that's where he's hiding at the moment. And that's where he catches up with Brasso. And we hear, because, that's where Cassian effectively offloads his emotions to Brasso, saying, this is what I wanted to say to Maarva and all the rest of it. And of course, Brasso has to step in for Maarva. It was a really nice moment, because the last connection he had to any sense of family died, and he wasn't even there. And as he said, he couldn't even get back. It's like, oh, dude, that's tough. So,
and again, I thought it was really well done. Where in Obi-Wan we saw there was tunnels under the city, and they managed to navigate them completely, like with no spatial actual making sense, where they'd get through Imperials and people would pop up here and there. And in this, it was actually believable. And, they're going through tunnels and they're coming in different places. You've had the backup the backstory that they do this already. And there was some serious tension where you're like, oh, the Imperials have got him and stuff like that. And I seriously did not know what was going to happen. So again, a much better directed series than some of the other stuff we've seen.
Love it. Now, going back to the motorcycle, Daniel said one for each thruster. Yeah, that would work, wouldn't it? You got a sore wrist and you go, this one, the whole bike. No, dude. And for whatever reason, no gearbox, clutch, differential steering. Oh, ads, let it go, son. It was just a joke, all right? So there you go. Now, this one I could not fathom, right? We see some fantastic scenes in this show. It's all great and wonderful. And this one I go, and no one has been able to provide an answer to this as to what the hell this sequence meant, right? Cyril and Linus on the ship on the way to Ferrix, and they swap hats. I did not get what that was about.
Well, I thought it was because it was a thing about seniority, where he was wearing a hat that made him look more senior than Cyril, because Cyril had gone into a public job and turned up with that, and he was working slightly higher up. That's how I interpreted it. So because Cyril is the one sort of leading the mission, he switched the hats over just as a sign of sort of, I guess, respect.
Could be. I couldn't get it. And I found it interesting too that after this sequence, Cyril looks out the window, but Linus is always looking straight ahead. I thought that was interesting. They don't even look at each other. They don't talk to each other. It was kind of cool. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But a few people have asked, and no one has come up with a plausible explanation. I'm only working on the view that the director said, just do it just because you can when they did the sequence, because it just made it visually interesting, and it's definitely become one of those questions. There's no answer, and it's obviously not an important answer. But I thought, no, okay, so there you go.
Well, you are right. There is no answer. And when I saw it the first time, I thought it was setting up for something down the track. And because it wasn't, the only thing that kind of makes sense is, the bigger the hat, the more the authority.
Could be. Oh, hang on. That's what Christy said. Actually, the bigger the hat, the higher the rank.
There you
I suppose
go.
so. Yep. Oh, two great minds think alike. So Christy said, isn't that Luthen behind Linus? I'm assuming you're meaning this one there. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so, because you see the three of them later on, which I'll point out. But maybe, I don't know. So yeah, could be interesting. Because we do know that Luthen does use the tram to get into town. So there you go. It's to help him blend in. But I mean, the hat's not going to make any. It's not like Clark Kent saying glasses. It's just a hat, dude. But anyway, no big deal. All good. This is what I thought was good and beautiful. I love as always the visuals in this show. A good overview shot of Ferrix, and I thought, will this place ever be referenced? Because we know what's going to happen later on. The Rebel Alliance folklore, right? Do you reckon that's ever going to happen? Generations from now, you go, all started on this one event in this place called Ferrix that no one even knows anything about.
Probably
not.
Probably not, because everyone there gets blown up in Rogue One, so they don't remember it. It just goes down.
No, it's the broader alliance. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll discuss it later on. It is where the alliance really, the rebellion becomes a thing, as it were. So it's very significant. It's that spark, like Kara said earlier. It just takes one thing to set it off, and this is the one thing. I don't know. Just wonder about it. Anyway, not to worry. So Nurchi, he's put two and two together. He's worked out Cassian's in the building. And, of course, it makes a lot of sense that the Empire would pay the locals to spy for them. And as we mentioned earlier on, Nurchi was clearly in need of money because he wants to get off the world and get his dollars very, very quickly. And he's not the happiest camper after Cassian's dodgy scam. So it was kind of cool that Cassian almost kind of got away with it. Snuck into town, was hiding away. Nobody knew he was there except for Nurchi. And I thought that was kind of groovy.
Now, I don't know if you've brought it out in one of your nerd alerts, but did you notice the Imperial Snitch was in this episode?
Imperial Snitch. Which Imperial Snitch we're talking about?
So the one from A New Hope that sold out.
Yeah. I'm coming to that. Actually, yeah, I'll get to that later on. Yeah. He had a lot of screen time. He had more screen time in this than he did in The New Hope. And we have confirmed now that it was actually Luthen who wanted Cassian killed. Because remember when Claire and Vel met up in Coruscant? And Claire was saying to Vel, knock the dude off. We weren't entirely sure if she was giving Vel that order or whether it came through Luthen. And it turns out it was Luthen after all. Although it's kind of funny because he says, we'll wait for the Empire to capture him and then we'll knock him off. And I'm thinking, how the hell are you going to do that and get away with it? So,
you get one of the spies that you're paying or working for or bribing in the Empire just to say, no, we don't want to interrogate him. We'll just get rid of him.
Yeah, and Luthen says, I'm just going to head over to the hotel. I thought, oh, dude, mate, you're walking in the lion's den. So I thought, yeah, okay, fair enough. So things are about to ramp up, right? It's called the Time Grappler, although someone came up with the name of Anvil Hammerman. Waxy thing. And now, I'll tell you what, I was wearing headphones and I had this turned up really loud. And when he hit it for the first time, it scared the shit out of me. Bang! Oh, my God. And apparently the Anvil is made of Beskar. Who knew that? There you go. How many Mandalorian outfits can you make out of that, dude?
Well, I didn't know that, but that's a really interesting fact, isn't it? Where did that come up from? Or was it just something that was online?
No, yeah, it's on one of those 1,000 things you need to know about Star Wars and blah 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 blah. I don't know, some bullshit thing that's some official Lucasfilm book. But I tell you what, that's a friggin' big load of Beskar, isn't it? So
maybe it's only Beskar plated.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly right. So, so the Time Grappler, which is a pretty stupid name, but anyway, bangs the thing. Now, I had to laugh, right? Now, in the past, I did laugh at this. So, previously, right, the show clearly has some budget issues, and they've said, okay, and Eldani, okay, we use real goats and sticky tape some extra horns on them, right? When we got the Nine Moss, we got pelicans, and we just spray painted them blue as one does. We get to the funeral scene, right? And I thought, mate, where's the galaxy far, far away cantina style musical instruments? All they got is real ones and stuck shit on them. And I'm like, What the friggin' hell's that flute, dude? What the hell?
It's the flute that you can pick up SBS on because it's such a great TV antenna, isn't it? It actually
I reckon
reminded me,
flauters. Sorry, go on.
it actually reminded me of the funeral scene from Live and Let Die in New Orleans.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I just looked at it and thought, I mean, flauters, people who play flutes for real, even I think these actors actually are real flauters. They'd be going, mate, this stuff is bullshit. Why would you stick all this crap on? What's it going to do? So they couldn't even work out or create new funky instruments for the show. They had to use real ones. And I thought with some extra bits sticky taped on, guys.
Do you know what that does? It channels whatever they're playing and it creates notes that only Wookiees can hear.
I love the sound of that. There we go. Well, we know that Beskar is not a musical metal. It's 9-carat Beskar. All right. So, and it's very funny because when the band is warming up, you know, if you ever hear an orchestra warming up, it just sounds complete shit. And they showed their sets. I go, hey, that music is freaking awful. Who the hell hired you guys? I didn't twig that they were warming up. Who shows people warming up? Jesus Christ.
I actually liked that because that's actually what happens before you start up with a band. I've been to concerts before. You do hear them tuning the instruments and things like that. It was just a bit of added realism.
Sorry, what?
It was just a bit of added realism.
Yep. And Chrissy was saying, I think the Salvation Army band tuning up was better than the band. Yeah, exactly right. But anyway, now, when they finally start the march, right, I was trying to work out what the music was, and I could have sworn it was a well-known, I don't know which one, Star Wars theme slowed right down. But no one has mentioned anything anywhere, so I'm assuming it's not the case. But I'll tell you what, it sounded damn familiar, but I couldn't figure out what it was, but it was really, really slow. But
like I said, I actually thought there were a couple of shared notes from the for Live and Let Die, the funeral scene in Harlem, New Orleans. At that, I actually did think it was a homage for that, for how close it was, especially with some of the way they were walking and swaying and things like that. I didn't recognize the music any more than it being associated with mourning and funeral music, though.
No, I just thought, I kind of getting it, but I kind of not getting it. But either way, I really liked it. It was kind of cool. From episode 1, the Wall of Gloves returns. Remember, we said as a check, I was going, oh, geez, if only we had 50 pairs of gloves. But of course, look at that. We've got French horns that suddenly aren't French anymore. So if you look over here, I think that's a French horn, or don't ask me about musical instruments and all these extra doodads and thingoids. It's like, you know, you need to get a bit of figuring down and the modal nodes kind of instruments into this.
It's a French clue horn, which is Droopy McCall's horn.
Love it. Yep, of course, you know, good old Droopy blowing his horn. What can I say? And of course, I love the fact that Tego, right? Remember, it was Prefect Tego. That we remember all those episodes ago. That's what he wanted to be called by. Removes all the troops out of the hotel, right? And so we now know that Bix's cell is unguarded. And of course, clearly no one thought, oh, if Cassian is in town, remember, nobody's seen him yet. Wouldn't he try and rescue her? That's what you call an oversight, eh?
Yeah, it is one of those things where there's a lot of stuff. The Empire do different even from real world stuff. I was saying to Tennille as we watched this, you know, during lockdown, helicopters were going around with like thermal capture to see if anyone was having a party in their house. Surely the Empire could like fly some vehicles over and see if anyone's like lying down on roofs and stuff like that they can't see, you know.
You'll be watching too many FBI shows. Was the theme music from Andor that plays at the start? Well, the funny thing is, every episode has a different theme tune. So it could be ads. I don't know. But I do know that if they ever produce a soundtrack LP of Andor, I mean, it'll just be full of opening theme tunes. And all of them have been fantastic, I've got to say. And this one was no exception. So do you love the fact that Tego and all those guys, Corvid, said, oh, no, we're only 40 people are allowed at the funeral, right? But, of course, you might have 40 people, but they're coming from different directions. Oh, how good's that? Because there's effectively multiple parades. Now, I thought that was ingenious. It was really, really clever. Saying, well, okay, we're not just going to have one march of 40 people. We'll have 6 or 7 marches full of 40 people, and they all converge on the one spot. Oh, I thought it was very, very impressive.
I did as well. I thought the Imperials must be super pissed. I was wondering if they were going to stop it, but they can't because they have to have this go down to see if Andor turns up. So they just have to grin and bear it.
Yeah, and of course the tensions are rising. Now, of course, in the show, the tension's rising because the music is rising and the way it's edited and the way the feeling is and all the rest of it. Now, in real life, it might not have been that way. But you would certainly, from the Empire's point of view and from Tigo's point of view, be thinking, oh, okay, something could happen here, without thinking that something would happen. But anyway, we'll cross that as we get further along. Cassian, who's stuck in his little building, sees Luthen. It's like, yep, there we go. And it's like, I bet I know exactly where you're parked, son. And I reckon that's the way to go. And of course, that brings in Cyril and Linus. I think this is what Tracy was mentioning earlier. They walk right past him. I thought, how good's this? So that was a nice little gag, wasn't it? Eh? So they walk up to the Imperial dudes who turn them around, and they walk right past Luthen. And I thought, isn't that the ultimate gag? Because Luthen, Cyril doesn't know that it was Luthen in the room with him when he got ambushed in episode 3. How good's that?
This is what I was saying earlier, though. Cyril is dressed fine because he's dressed like one of the locals. Why wouldn't Luthen dress like one of the locals? But being in a Sith cloak really makes you stand out when everyone else is dressed as a local.
Well, that's right. And of course, the dodgy weather means that wearing cloaks and hoods probably kind of works as well. Someone is going to get the sack for leaving Big Sun Garden. In the grand scheme of things, that's the least of their problems. And of course, the moment arrives, Cyril spots Dedra. Oh, dude, mate, there we go. He's like, all of his plans have changed. It's like, mate, Cassian who? He's suddenly got the hots going, and that was a cool moment, I've got to say. So
yeah, he saw her, and there was definitely a shudder in the Force, wasn't there?
I look at how the tension starts building from the right to the start of the episode, right up to the shit hits the fans. Exactly right. So very, very cool. All right, now it is now my time to educate you guys out there, for those who didn't know. So Brasso is carrying Maarva's brick, which in the end, you think about it, if you die and get made into a brick that's put into a house, that's not a bad idea, actually. So when you sit and think about it, and providing the house doesn't get knocked down sometime in the future. So Maarva's brick, right? Now, first things first, it's not written in Aurebesh. I don't know why it's not, but it isn't. But the in-universe dating system is known as CRC, right? Confirming she died in 79-72, right? Now, before you ask what the hell does all that mean, as far as the fans are concerned, as you saw at the very beginning of episode 1, it was 5 BBY, right? But you can't use that in-universe because the Battle of Yavin hasn't happened yet, right? So just very quickly, for those who don't know, the in-universe dating system is called CRC, and some people think it means Central Republic Calendar, although that's not been confirmed. And what it is that the Battle of Yavin, which stands at 0 BBY, they've just added 6,000 years to it, right? And the year is 7977, okay? That's the in-universe dating system, right? So that means that all the movies occurred at this particular time, okay? So you just do the mathematics and work it out from there. But the only one that links up to A New Hope is 7977. Okie dokie. And for that reason, when you look at Maarva, her brick, where she died in, as I said here, 7972, which is 5 years before Rogue One and A New Hope. So there you go. There's a bit of a nerdy education for you.
To your house, you've got to wait for a massacre.
Sorry, what? You froze for a moment. I thought, oh, he hasn't got anything to say. What was that?
No, I was going to say, if you wanted to add an extension to your house, you've got to wait for a massacre.
Indeedy, duty, didy. Anyway, so that's apparently the in-universe dating system that was confirmed by Pablo Hidalgo from the Lucasfilm Story Group. But this is the first time it's been shown on screen, okay? Your brain has just exploded. I don't blame you, Colin. It's a lot to take in. But I thought, when you look at the stone and you go, hang on, what exactly does all this stuff mean? Now we know what it means. So there you go. All right. Very good. CRC. Make of that what you will. The guy who creates CRC doesn't actually tell anybody what it means. People have to figure it out for themselves. All right. So this is the defining moment. So Cassie's been up on the thing watching the funeral procession. And, of course, as he knows, this is his defining moment. Now, he could just stand there and watch the entire thing, but clearly he's got to make a move. He's got to go, right? He's seen enough of it, and he knows that he's got to do what he needs to do. And, of course, he gets out just in the nick of time before the Imperials and Corva pop their noses into where he's hiding. And I thought, yeah, it's a difficult moment to say, well, it's very sad that Maarva's died and I get the funeral, but I've got to now become a rebel, effectively. And I thought that was kind of cool.
The other thing that I thought was incredibly smart, where the Imperials were set up because they thought Cassian was going to be in mourning and come and witness the funeral. Cassian used the funeral and the Imperials looking for him as a way to rescue Bix. So he wasn't coming there for the reason the Imperials thought, where they were going to catch him at the funeral, I guess, ceremony.
Well, that's right, and of course, yeah, he's just had to use their plans against him. So he's seen them all run out, and I think all the hotel's probably empty. And of course, he goes in through the back,
Yeah.
and that's why. Remember, they mentioned, oh, Bix was still alive as of 3 days ago. Now we know why, because this dude was cooking food for her. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the whole place is completely deserted. I did like this, right? So Bix has been stuck in detention for a little while now, and I think for her, just hearing this music would be the equivalent of the sounds of freedom, because she has clearly got a busted head now. And I thought that was, quite good. What do you reckon?
Well, again, her story has been quite sad, really. She's the one who's lost the most and her mind. And this is sort of, she's witnessing the funeral, and when she thinks it's at the lowest, then Cassian turns up and rescues her. It is a really nice sort of little scene in the middle of all of this.
Yep, you can hear it now. I'm Cassian Andor. I'm here to rescue you. And I love, and unlike, say, in a lot of movies and TV shows where the captive person would go, "Oh my God, thank you," and just run out the door, she doesn't do anything. She just stays there, and he's got to coax her out. I really like that, actually, because she's busted in the head and hasn't really recognized him at all. And I thought that was really good. So you do wonder where that's all going to go. All right, so.
Well, it just shows how damaged she is. It shows how damaged she is.
Yeah, exactly right. Wasn't this a great shot when this big, long pan down the street, the defining moment of what's going to be happening? So in the beginning of the shot, you had the Imperials at the bottom, and then you're coming up to the everybody at the top. And I like the fact that B2 was in charge or leading the funeral parade. That was kind of groovy. And you talk about this dude, right?
Yes.
Now, how cheap is this for an alien? Now, I don't think it's the same one, because he's missing extra tubes on the side of his. So if you look at around, you've got tubes on the side there. But they've clearly got his mask, right? And they've just stuck it on a dude and said, "Put your hood on, bang, you're an alien, son." How good is that? But sadly, as we discover, he gets the wherefore later on. What do you reckon, dude?
Oh, I thought it was a nice callback, especially how there are snitches in this episode, and you have the Imperial snitch standing in the background there. And you know what happens? Snitches end up in ditches.
So I don't know if it's meant to be the same character, but they clearly put the mask on. And he featured prominently in this sequence because he gets the stun and he gets knocked out and whatever else. And I looked at that and I thought, oh, that's pretty dodgy, sort of like Easter egg placement. What do you reckon, eh?
Yeah. So, and you know what? They gave his cape another color, and I thought that's fantastic. Hasbro can get exactly the same mold and just rack out the same character with a different clothes, and there you go. You've got a new version of him.
Yeah, well, you look at his jacket. It's a jacket you get from Savers. There's nothing special about that at all. It's just a human being with a mask on.
Well, you mentioned that from Savers. What you just mentioned about the opening shot to the scene of the funeral there, which was a big, expansive one. We've seen some really nice on all the Star Wars series that we've been reviewing. It's not cheap on the looks, but this one is particularly realistic looking, because I think they've gone to locations, and when they've done shots like this. This whole episode was beautiful, from the opening shot you mentioned with the Imperial shuttle landing at night, and to the you really believe this is a society that kind of exists, and it's a lot grittier. And because we've had 12 episodes here, you have really got to know it and see it, and it doesn't look like it's filmed on one street on a backlot somewhere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It's very, very true to life, and you are right. People in that environment, they just would dress like that just for practicality.
Yeah.
So B2 comes along and does the R2D2 thing with a hologram, and it's a big ass hologram too, by the way. And of course, this is what it's all about. Everybody stops and listens to Maarva, and it does goes to show just how well respected she was in the village or in the city. And I thought it was really, really cool. And it's interesting. Someone has mentioned that like Rebels, the first season of Rebels occurs in the same year as Andor. And someone has said, wouldn't it be interesting, which is 7972 for those who didn't put two and two together, wouldn't it be interesting if when Ezra's doing his big speech about the rebellion on Lothal, if that was occurring at the same time as Maarva's on Ferrix? I don't know, just one of those little things. Yeah.
I did think that I did think the Empire let the speech go on a lot longer than I thought they would. I did think you were going to get someone come out and go, hang on, hang on, hang on. You haven't got a permit for a 40-foot hologram. You've only got a permit for a 20-foot hologram. You're going to have to close that down. And when she actually started talking about rebellion and things like that, I thought no way would they have let it go on for as long as it actually did.
Well, that's right, because when she starts talking, remember, the Empire didn't know who Maarva was. They had no idea, right? She was just this famous lady, and she's carked it, and it's like Cassian's mother. Got that, right?
Yeah.
They had no idea what she was going to say. She could have just been a very benevolent speech. But of course, as I said earlier, it's intended to be a peaceful march. Right now, there are a couple of individuals, like Wilmon's brought the bomb, and Brasso is tensed, but everybody else, not really, not yet, right? They're still there because it's a funeral procession. So it gives the impression it's a powder keg waiting to go off, but I think you'll find for a lot of people that's not necessarily the case. And had Maarva had just said, just make sure you remember me, it's been a great time, everybody goes home, that's the end of the story, right? But of course, you are right. She starts railing people up. Now, this was a great moment. I don't know if you sort of really took much out of this, right? When Dedra comes out, she looks at where the voice is coming from and then turns away and just keeps going. And I thought that was kind of interesting because everybody's listening to what Maarva's saying, but Dedra couldn't give a shit. She's too busy looking for Cassian. And I thought that was just it was just one of those interesting moments that they put in the show, because they could have easily just had Dedra walk out and just not pay attention to her at all. But she does pay attention for a brief moment. One effectively powerful woman looking at another powerful woman. So,
Dedra's got the mission, and it has nothing to do with watching what Maarva's doing. Maarva's speech was good. There was one particular line where she says, "It's easy to say you should be brave when you're already dead," which I thought was a fantastic line. There was the writing in this series it really feels like the writing room has done the episode and gone, well, how can we make it stronger, and how can we make the characters more realistic and better? I think, like, love it or hate it for being wordy and a character piece, you can't really complain about the level of dialogue in this. There's no going to Toshi Station to pick up power converters.
No, there is not. And of course, Tigo, right? He's standing right there in the center. They're growing right there. He's not a happy camper. Dedra's gone off in the opposite direction. He's got a huge crowd to control, right? And, he's listening to Maarva's speech, and she's sort of getting a little bit, hang on, getting a bit contentious here. And he's like, dude, you are going to cock things up badly. But you can see from his point of view, because he doesn't want to write either. And he knows he can't just say, all right, that's enough of the show. Everybody pack up and go home. And, of course, it doesn't help when Maarva's words are just getting more and more intense. Now, at the end, apparently, when she said fight the Empire, some people actually thought she was going to say F the Empire, right? Which I'm kind of glad they didn't do that, because that's really, because we've had real life swearing in here, even though she does use the word bastard at this point. But I thought, well, where's this going to go? And of course, that's it. Tigo comes out and says, right, enough's enough. And as soon as you tip over B2, oh, dude.
It is interesting. I did think Maarva through the whole series has been she's been, a strong character, but she's an old and small woman. And the end of her life, she's this huge dominating hologram who is telling everyone to rebel, which kind of goes to show how the series goes against, stereotypes. And then what triggers it is, again, the Empire come in and turn over a tiny little robot, and then it's a free-for-all.
The worst thing you can do, in the end, you could say, okay, if people get riled up and say, fight the Empire, do this, do that, and people go, oh, I hate them, but they're not going to physically do anything, right? I mean, they're just going to go, well, I'll just go home and have a grumble, and, just like, rah, 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 rah. But once you physically impact the funeral and turn B2 over and destroy affect the hologram's projection, well, that's exactly what you shouldn't do. And of course, that's exactly what they did.
I do think all they had to do, the Empire just had to stand there and look ominous, and let them have their protest, and let them put her in the wall and go home, and you would have avoided all of this.
Yep. Love that. Maarva's brick was her final strike against the Empire. I did notice that, because, sure enough, even in death, she still continues to fight them, which I thought was kind of cool. I originally thought that Brasso whacked Corvo with this, but he didn't. He hit somebody else. And then it was all off and running. Now, from Brasso's point of view, clearly he was ready to just go right off the deep end. But you are right. Had they just let the thing finish, would have been okay. Crowd disperses, everybody goes home, and that's the end of that. Daniel's made a point about saying the Death Troopers. Yes, it was good to see them again, and could be assigned to higher-ranking Imperial officers. Of course, the only downside is after Rogue One, we never see them again. But whatever. And it is off and running, and of course, it's just exacerbated the entire situation. So Tigo, has just cocked up everything, and that's it. It's on for young and old, and yes.
Well, it feels like a very realistic uprising as well. And one of the good things which people complained about beginning is we don't see any stormtroopers and we haven't seen really any Imperials. When you have this, which is just really for the Empire, a little outpost planet somewhere with a small contingent of Imperials and stormtroopers, when it comes to this, it's much more exciting because we haven't seen any of this through the rest of the series. And the way they built it up through the whole episode, it was almost like from when the funeral procession started, with the music slow but slowly getting faster and faster, and I think Ad said ratcheting up the tension from that point to the point where you get it here, you actually are really looking forward to what goes down.
Yeah, and what the repercussions are going to be. So Tigo, who balls it all up in the first place, crawls out, right? And of course, it's interesting to remember that for a lot of Imperials, they don't see a lot of resistance from the peasants, right?
Yeah.
They roll up. They've got the power and the authority. Everybody just kowtows down to them. Remember, the alliance isn't established as yet. It's still very, very just a few pockets of rebels here and there. And do you think at this moment he's aware of what he's done and is like, that kind of didn't exactly go the way I wanted it to. There you go. But of course, once he gets up again, he gets his bravado and he starts telling the stormtroopers to shoot everybody and whatever. But do you think at this point he's like, yeah, maybe I could have done that a little different. Differently, because
the other thing as well is it runs
sort
into
of resistance. Sorry, dude, I cut you off.
Sorry, this runs into what I was saying about the Empire don't really tell each other enough information to know, because if she'd briefed him and said, this is actually what's going on here and this is the goal of what the Empire needs to achieve, he probably wouldn't have set this all up. But it goes to what I was saying earlier. You've got her going, capture, interrogate, and you've got this guy going, guns, guns, guns.
It's a classic, isn't it? And it's like, it's exactly emulating what Cyril did, right? All those episodes ago, where he went against orders, went to Ferrix and lost all these dudes and whatever else. Tigo is exactly the same. It's like, I'm following the book. I'm doing the right thing. How cool am I? Oh, they're saying bad things against the Empire. Well, I'm going to show them. I'll turn the droid over. And they're all just going to go scampering off like cockroaches. And of course, the exact polar opposite happens. And you're thinking, you'd be sitting there thinking, as he's called his way through, thinking, oh, shit, I'm going to have to answer for this at some point. So,
yeah,
unbelievable.
Do you know the stormtrooper that had the worst job? The one that had to run up all those steps with no lift, only to be like whacked off the top by a giant hammer.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's right. So, and then Wilmon with his bomb. We don't know what he was going to do with it, but he clearly carried it and chucked it in the thing and blew up the tank and whatever else. I was like, oh, dude, mate. And there we go. It's literally an explosion. And of course, and who let the grenades out? Oh, then it's going on. It's fucking 4th of July sort of shit. There's just bust off banging everywhere. It's like, oh, dude.
So the one thing I did think is I didn't think there was actually enough death from the bomb and the grenades going off as what I thought there would be, because people, there's explosions, but it isn't the explosion that kills you in that, it's the shrapnel. And if all those grenades went off, I was expecting to see shredded people, and there really wasn't, which surprised me because I thought this series was heading that direction.
Yeah, I agree, because I showed an overshot. You see a couple of wounded people here and there, and I was waiting to see limbs missing and all that. And I think they thought, that's just nah. We've got the point across. There's dead people, both good guys, bad guys. Leave it at that, because I agree with you. If you went the full Fangoria, real born on the 4th of July sort of stuff, it would have taken it in a different direction, but probably would have been a bit too much.
I didn't mean you show like that, but I thought there would just be more casualties, and I did think you might take out one head Imperial or something. They didn't really get any of the main characters with the bomb, which I was surprised by. I thought when they showed them making it and all of that, and so much work going into foreshadowing it, I did think someone big was going to go because of that bomb.
Okay. I love the fact that it smashed all the windows. Remember, Nurture's
Yes.
looking at the window, gets a full face. Oh, dude, that's not good at all. And in the prison with Bix, it's just, mate, you see smashing glass, it's like, Jesus Christ, what, they fire a cannon through it or something? It's bloody impressive as.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And now there's a couple of points. Now, I'm going to get to the jokes in a sec, right? But there's a classic film quote from the movie V from Vendetta, right? When someone asks what's going to happen in a riot situation, and the answer is the same thing that always happens when people without guns stand up to people with guns, right? And as Colin said, yep, they've completed their target practice, and Chrissy said they could hit the side of a broadside of a barn. Now, Tigo has ordered them to shoot unarmed civilians, right? Not good. And that's the thing. And it's always going to be a one-sided battle no matter what. And of course, unlike Aldani, the attack on the base, and Narkina 5 in the prison, where the Empire could cover the entire thing up and just wash it under the carpet, clearly that's not going to happen here, right? Once you're shooting unarmed civilians, and there's lots of them around on Ferrix, word is going to get out, and that's just going to make that's what's going to get people to join the rebellion / the alliance, because this has just crossed the massive line. And it was good for the sequence, and it's good that you are right. They could shoot straight, and they were killing people. I mean, there was a dude, remember, who jumps on the back of the stormtrooper, and the guy gets shot right off his back. Absolutely fantastic. So
that was I thought that was a missed opportunity. I did think the stormtrooper was going to try and shoot him off his back and hit the stormtrooper, but he actually got him. And the other thing I did think, you had the guy with the BFG, and he didn't take the guy in the in the bell tower out before they sent someone up. I was just thinking, you used the big gun straight away.
Yeah, I have an answer for that one. Tracy made a point about the bomb wasn't dirty, which means you fill it full of shrapnel, so it will kill everybody. Yeah, mate, you're right. Willman, chances are he just wanted to blow up the tank, and he did that. There you go. Whether he was going to do it at the funeral some of the time, I mean, he brought it with him. Who knows? But you are right. It wasn't designed to inflict massive casualties, because chances are the casualties would be his own people. That's a very good observation. It's the same thing that has been raised with Empire actually fears the people, hence the overreaction. Well, that's covered off in Karras's manifesto, right? Why is the Empire so tyrannical? Because they're afraid of what's going to happen. It's just like it's on a knife edge. Things can just go completely pear-shaped. So that's exactly correct. So that relates directly back to what he said in that book, and which was particularly cool. So, and just one of those little things, right? So the stormtroopers who shoot this dude off the stormtrooper's back, and you're thinking, oh, wait, what a great shot. It's actually a flipped shot of that shot, which we saw a few moments ago. So I thought I'd just mention that. But because I noticed these things. Yeah, very good. Stormtroopers holding the guns in the left and the right hand. Nah, sorry, it's just a flipped image.
Well spotted.
Very good. And of course, while all this is going down, shit's going down everywhere. Corva, he's wandering down the street. Cinta's behind him, and it's like, yeah, dude, she had you figured out ages ago, and I reckon she loved this moment, stabbing the dude and giving him the extra hoist. Yeah, that was personal. What did you think?
Well, I didn't see it coming, and when she did it, I was like, "That's fantastic!" Like, that really is one of those payoffs, because again, we were talking in the background. They've been getting closer and closer with different episodes, and then this episode they meet, and she just shanks him.
Yep, just done like that, and he's got no friggin' idea who she is. Unbelievable.
But it's so good. Just a couple of episodes ago, you were like, "Whoa, maybe they might hook up." So,
wouldn't it be funny? It's like he turns to her and says, "Oh, while you're here, can you give me a drink?" Give me a drink. Oh dear. But yes, that's the end of Corva. He copped it really bad, and it was a good old-fashioned normal bladed knife too. No laser blade, viro blade, bullshit blade. It was just a stock standard, carving knife. Love it.
That's so any kids watching can just recreate the scene with stuff straight out of their kitchen drawer.
I love it. Absolutely fantastic. So Cassian rescues Bix. He's getting in. The whole place is empty. What are the chances of that? He gets in, gets her out. He shoots the Death Trooper, and he sees Nurchi on the ground dead. And of course, he wouldn't even realize why Nurchi's even there, right? He's probably thinking, "Oh, mate, what's the deal with that?" That's a bit unfortunate. And of course, as we know, Nurchi was the one who sold him out. So that would have been a bit of a shock to the system. But yeah, poor Nurchi, he would have copped it massively to the face in the explosion. So yeah, yes. So. Indeed. I like this from Adzi. Yeah, maybe he didn't pay his tab. And you are right. So they bring out the big, what I class as the equivalent of a 50 cal, right, which is going to make an absolute mess of everything. And they didn't shoot the dude in the tower. And I think that was intentional, because Tigo looks at him, and I think Tigo's thinking, if I knock this dude off, the time grappler, Anvil Hammerman, it's just going to make the situation worse, because that dude is like Big Ben. He's like blowing up Big Ben, right? You don't do it. And I think that's the reason why, even though that dude kicks off one of their stormtroopers. But yeah, using the big 50 cal on the crowd, an unarmed crowd at that. Oh, dude, not pretty.
And being a toy person, that really reminds me of the actual play set for Hoth, where they've got this huge gun on the Imperial Hoth attack base, and it kind of does the same thing where you've got the same scale, and it's obviously a higher caliber weapon. That's just me as someone who collects toys. I was like, maybe they use that as inspiration.
Yeah, could be too. So in the end, as I just said, Tigo watches him get kicked off, right? And I reckon he's now realised that he's ballsed everything up, and the Empire will
Yeah.
never have control of Ferrix now, especially at the current time. And of course, someone's going to have to get the blame for everything that's going on. Now, eventually, Dedra is going to report back and go, "Yeah, it was Tigo who ballsed everything up, set off the thing, chucked over the droid, off we went." So he is his career is not going to end well at all. And of course, you do think when it's all said and done, when the Empire does come back to get control of Ferrix, it ain't going to be pretty. So, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting because he was looking at the thing. He did. I was waiting for him to go fire at the tower, and of course he doesn't. He just watches what happens, and I thought, I think the realization sort of sunk in, which I thought was kind of cool because normally they just go, "Yep, shoot everything, get the rocket launcher, and off we go." No, didn't do anything at all.
I think Dedra is going to get some blowback from this as well, because basically what was happening was her plan was playing out, and it all went to hell. And she was so confident she didn't even have protection for herself there, so she nearly copped it on the planet too. If it wasn't for our friend Cyril Khan, she would have copped it on the planet.
So wasn't this an interesting moment? So Dedra gets whacked in the head and is going to get taken in by the crowd. And you just know if they get their hands on her, it is not going to end well at all, right?
Yeah.
And this was an interesting moment because I honestly didn't know what was going to happen, right? She's been the lead antagonist the entire show. Is she going to get ripped apart by the mob, the horde, right? And of course, Cyril is like the White Knight comes to save her, even though ironically she's the one wearing white. And it was so interesting seeing the contrast between her character in this moment, because she's absolutely in complete shock. And got old Mr. Cyril, who is completely in the zone, right? He's here to comfort her, protect her. And now everybody said, "Oh, is he going to go in for the pash?" Right? Is that what's going to happen? And I think in some movies and TV shows, that's exactly what would happen, right? The opposites attract, to a degree. It's the moment of just like, "Oh my God, you've saved my life." Off we go. And I'm so glad they did not do that. I'm really, really glad. But I like the fact that of all the times that he's been in a bad situation, he is as calm as anything, and she's the one who needs protecting. I thought that was a fantastic moment. What do you reckon?
Yes, and it wasn't going to happen where they kissed. I thought if it was going to happen, it might have happened earlier. But with this was purely about Andor and the mission this episode, so I don't think they were going to go there. I did say, I think last week I said, I think this was a bit of hero's journey for Cyril, and he was going to do something to save the day, to obviously get back into the good graces of the Empire and get out of living with his mum. And I thought Andor was going to get away and Cyril was going to catch him, and that's how the series would end. I was close. Like, he did save Deirdre, probably.
I think you said that episodes ago, right, when Cyril was becoming a dude and we found he was the stalker, outside the ISB headquarters. I think you said, I didn't go back and rewatch the episode to say, I think you said, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if he saved her life or something." So I think you even said it way back then. And of course he did. Just a couple of quick things. Tigo might get a visit from Vader because he stuffed up so badly. No, I don't think so. It'll all just go through Partagaz and Yularen and all those dudes. Based on how the story sort of plays itself out at this stage. It was her watch. She will be held responsible, maybe, but she will say in a heartbeat, "Well, I wasn't even there," right? And because all the troops will say, "Yeah, Tigo went out and tipped the droid over. Blame him." And don't forget, he is in charge of Ferrix, right? She's the visiting officer. So he's the prefect. Remember that. So he's got to take responsibility. So no, it's all going to fall back on Tigo. Especially considering he's the one who did it. And she says, "Look, I was just looking for Cassian. I had nothing to do with the funeral at all. That was his thing."
Well, the other thing from A New Hope, they say, I would say it's around the same way things run, that the Imperial governors take control of the systems kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the prefect and the governor, I think, is kind of the same thing. So it will go back to him.
Yep, she was just looking for Cassian. She had nothing to do with what was going on with the funeral, and he's the one who caused it all. And she'll be more than happy to say that in a heartbeat. He's like, "It wasn't me, it was him. Blame that guy." So it won't end well at all regarding the Dedra thing. She looked like she didn't know if she should hit him or throw up. Well, it was interesting, wasn't it? She's like completely freaking out. All right. And to be fair, the editing of the sequence doesn't kind of work that well because she's being mobbed by all these dudes. He's picked up the gun, and then suddenly he's got the gun in the back, and they walk into the room, and there you go. But it was just such a fascinating contrast from the first meeting, where Dedra was being the, what are you doing here? Are you stalking me and all the rest of it? And Cyril's going, just there. Oh, thanks for the promotion, all the rest of it. Now she's completely losing her mind, and he's as calm as a cool cucumber. How good is that?
Here's the interesting thing, though. He isn't actually there for her. He is there for Andor. That was the whole motivation. Is she going to think, you're a massive stalker? Maybe he likes me. Maybe he thinks I'm really cool. And he doesn't at all. He wasn't even thinking she was going to be there.
True, but the moment he saw his eyes went on her, Cassian who? If he just forgot all about it, right? And Linus is going, oh, he's probably around here somewhere. Nah, mate, I'm too busy focused over there. So, and you can understand that from his point of view. He'd be seeing her in the crowd and all going, oh, I want to go and talk to her. I want to go and approach her. And, because you do wonder if he thought, why is she here? Because he actually says, oh, she's here. Does he know that she's looking for Cassian as well? You would assume so. So, but yeah, it was an interesting moment, and you do wonder what happened in the very next shot after that. Did he help her out? Give her a helping arm? Did she tell him to nick off? Smack her in the ear off? Yeah.
Episode 1 of next season is going to be with them in bed together smoking death sticks.
Because they both had to go home and rethink their lives. Exactly right. Absolutely fantastic. It was her plan to let the funeral go ahead and allow it so she could catch Andor. Yes, but I hear what you're saying, but Tigo was in charge of the area, right? She will handball it off as fast as she can, and being a more superior officer, I think she'll...
she had implicitly said no shooting, no firing, no crowd control. So he was the one who broke the orders there.
That's right. And he brought all the guys out with the riot shields and stood them in the street and all the rest of it. So he did all that. She was already walking around looking for Cassian. So, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I think she's got the smarts to say, yep, it wasn't my fault. This is an interesting one, right? So we see the shuttle Luthen, and I thought this is interesting. He didn't even cause the riot, right? So he's seeing a rebellion spring up right before his eyes, and it wasn't even him who did it. He was just an observer. In fact, he was involved because he was impacted by the bombs, the grenades. And I thought, he's probably thinking, mate, this is awesome. How good is this? We've now got a resistance of the peasants fighting back on the Empire, and had nothing to do with him. He just happened to be there to see it. Even though the cost, and we saw that cost already with some of the civilians, will be a massively high one. But isn't that interesting? He's just impartial, well, not impartial, but an observer. He can say, I was there when it all happened.
Yeah, that was the thing. He landed, came in, watched, and snapped back out again.
Which is funny because from this image here, which I thought was fantastic, right? He's looking at the carnage downstairs. It's like he can use the little Sith line from Attack of the Clones, right? It's like war has begun. And of course, he would just say, excellent. So as mentioned, what will the fate of Ferrix be now? I reckon when the word gets back as to what's happening, it's like the peasants are revolting. The boot of the Empire is going to come in massively hard, probably like it did in Aldani. And of course, as we said, word will get out as to what's going on. And this is the beginning of the Rebel Alliance as we know it in A New Hope, right? This is the beginning, how it's all started. And we get to see it all firsthand, which is very cool.
Yeah. So I thought it was very satisfying in the way the whole episode played out. So nothing to disappoint me at all.
Very good. So we get to finally see a wrap-up as to what everybody else is up to. So Val and Cinta are effectively getting out of Dodge, right? And, of course, Val is reminded how Cinta is a ruthless killer. She's got blood on her hands, but it's someone else's blood. It's like, yeah, there's a moment for you. You do wonder if Val could kill people like Cinta does. I don't know, but she would probably be a little bit perturbed by that. Good old B2 gets to see Cassian for a whole minute on the ship as he brings Bix back to send her off to safety, which I thought was kind of cool. And, of course, as we mentioned, even if Bix recovers, the PTSD is going to be massive. What do you reckon, dude? She is, like, in a bad way.
She needs, like, a Jedi that has healing powers or something like that. I think this doesn't look like one of those things that you come back from. It almost looks like a lobotomy or brain damage, you know?
Tracy's referring to Luthen. This is the opposite from the early shot where we were looking about the storm from the right. Oh, that's a good point. So in the early, when he was looking at the storm, he was on the right-hand side of frame, and in the last shot, he was on the left-hand side of frame. Interesting. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's an interesting
And
observation. Well
it
done.
is one of those things, if you're taking the storm analogy, he walked into the eye of the storm and everything happened around him, but he didn't participate as well. And then it moved off and he walked away again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty groovy. Hang on. Yes, you are right. He had nothing to do with it, and yet it's possible, and it is going to happen. Bigger thing than anything he could have planned. So, yeah, that is very, very groovy. Yeah, right. The before and the after. Sticking with the ship, we get to see Wilmot. I do wonder if he's going to have any sense of guilt over what he did, because he's the one chucking the grenade that's allowed the stormtroopers to start shooting everybody. I don't know, and whether he's going to have some negative thoughts towards Bix because she survived being captured, whereas his father didn't. I don't know. I'll just put it out there. So, but he certainly didn't like see Bix and go, "Oh my God, it's Bix! Oh, I've missed you for such a long time. Oh, how cool is this?" He actually looked at Tad, had a bit of resentment towards her. I thought so.
Well, I thought he is a pretty young guy, and I think after what just happened, he's probably still in shock.
Yeah, well, there's that too, and it's like the whole thing. I've chucked a grenade because I was angry, and it's like, oh my God, all these people I know got killed. Yeah, sorry about that, Chief. And speaking of the wrap up, there's a classic here, a line from I can't lost it now, so it's all right. Oh yes, Tracy says poor Linus got dumped. Now, what is the deal with this? A new TV series? What do you reckon? The Book of Linus Mosk. And some people have worked on the view. The reason why he's sitting there so disillusioned and he's having the drink and all that, he's got to go up to the pub, is because he was such a big supporter of the Empire and he has seen firsthand just how bastardy they can be, shooting unarmed people. That's what people have interpreted this sequence to be. I don't know myself, but what do you think?
Well, the thing is, he was there in civilian clothes at the funeral. If he hadn't got out, he would have just been shot.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm asking. Remember, he was from the early episodes of the series. He was always wanted the law and order and following the rules and the Primors and all this sort of stuff, right? And the Empire is great and wonderful. They're looking after the galaxy and yet, etc., etc. And yet he gets to see them shoot unarmed people willingly, right? Now, does that mean his entire illusions towards them has just been completely shattered? And that's what some people are interpreting from that sequence.
I don't know, because when you go back, he was one of the more gung ho ones about going in there and nothing matters. I would have thought from those episode 3, he would have been someone who would have shot an unarmed person if they got in the way. Anyway, so I don't know if his morals are that at odds with what he just saw happen, but it could be.
Yeah, I mean that's what people have interpreted that because, it's kind of funny sitting there just sort of drinking his whiskey and probably go off to the pub later on, but it's not the kind of ending you would have thought you would have seen from Linus, and I thought that's interesting. I mean, I personally don't know myself, but maybe it certainly wouldn't be having a drink because he lost Cyril because he's nicked off Dedra, so it wouldn't be that. But
the thing is, he doesn't know Andor even turned up, does he?
No, so, they were just suspecting. They're just there thinking he might be there, but they never.
So basically, they went there to capture Andor, and they just witnessed a huge massacre. So that's probably why he needs a drink.
I don't know. It's hard to say. And as was mentioned by someone, not here in this show, but someone else said Cassian was there the whole time, and no one saw him. Val didn't see him. Cinta didn't see him. Dedra didn't see him. Cyril didn't see him. No one saw him. So that was kind of interesting. And going back to Wilmot, and I agree with you on this one, Christy. The way he looks at Cassian as if looks could kill. Yeah, he doesn't exactly look at Cassian and go, oh my God, this is Wilmot, the dude who chucked the bomb. It's like, oh my God, Cassian, it's so good to see you here. Nah, unless he's in his own version of shock as well, as in Wilmot. So I don't know. He's upset he has to go back to his shitty job, which was working in a smelter because nothing happened. That's a good point. Yeah, he doesn't become the hero. Maybe. That's a good observation. So we're down to the last couple of shots. So we end up back on Luthen's ship, and of course Cassian's there. And it's like, how the hell did he get there so fast? Now we know how he knows the ship is there because Luthen parks in the same spot. But it's like, okay, from the shipyard to here, and because Luthen's got the really fancy double friggin' handlebar bike, how did he get here so fast? I guess that's probably a good question to ask. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I thought it just goes to show how resourceful and how good Cassian is, because not only did he get there, he got into the ship and he disabled the AI.
Yes, that's right. So the 3-pronged Duvalaka camera wasn't working. So he got on the ship and he's not puffing his guts out. So he's clearly been there for a little while. And of course, Luthen turns up and realizes, okay, here we go. What's going to happen? Now we know it's kind of funny because like he says, oh, you can kill me if you want. Luthen picks up the gun. Clearly we know he's not going to kill him because, hey, dude, you can't kill me. I've got to be in a movie in a few years' time, which was made a few years ago. So in the end, as we know, yes, good old Cassian is now going to become a rebel dude and take whatever vow he needs to take. So, I like that one. Yeah, the Ferrix Uber. Yeah, that's exactly right. I like the sound of that. And all very good and exciting. That's how the series finishes. I know we had to get to that really quickly. There's over 100 pictures we had to look at. So, unbelievable. Tracy said Cassian is the reason he's lost his father. This is Salmon. Yes, it was, wasn't it? Because they were trying to track him down. Because, that's that all the dots, joining all the dots together. Find Cassian to find Luther / Axis. So you are right. They grabbed Salmon, did all the interrogation, found out about Bix. Where's Cassian? Yes, you are correct. So no wonder good old Wilmon would not be happy with Cassian. So there you go. Now, before we get next into it, Christy, can you please give me your crimson yawns for this episode only? Remember, the more yawns, the worse it was. The less yawns, the better it was. And something I completely forgot to do last week, which goes to show I'm a bit of a bad dude. It is our last episode of DNA reviews of the Andor series. Thank God for that, because we've been doing this for nearly 2 months. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, you need to check out the old Sci-Fi's own socials, with the Instagrams, Twitters, and whatever else. And if you are looking for the ultimate Andor merchandise, don't go to their galactic antiquities and objects of interest. Aaron Store, mate, what have you got?
Nothing. No, we've got we've got a huge selection of Star Wars figures. We've got a couple of Andor pieces, but they're mainly, I guess, still related to Rogue One, because a lot of the new stuff hasn't hit the shops yet.
Yeah. Yes. What you need to do is they need to produce a action figure of that 50 caliber laser beam shooting some random dude in the street, some innocent person who's not armed at all.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So there you go. All right. So, dude, what did you think of it all, son?
Well, it is interesting, because if you were to ask me what is my favorite Star Wars series, it would probably be Andor now. But if you were asked me what series would I watch the most, I'd still probably watch The Mandalorian first series. And it's like, I guess my analogy is restaurants. What do you eat the most? Probably fast food. And then something like that would be The Book of Boba Fett. And then something better than that might be grilled. And that would be The Mandalorian, where it's quite good and you go there quite regularly. But Andor is more a fine restaurant where you go once a year because it's expensive, but every time you go there, it's absolutely fantastic from entree to dessert. So I'm going to give Andor as a series a 9 out of 10.
Very good. Now, 2 things. So Christy has given it the 4 yawns, which is equivalent of 6 out of 10, which is, I think, equal to her highest score, which is particularly cool. Daniel's asked, what about the post-credit bit? If you watch the start of this episode, we already covered that off. That's what happens when you join late. You miss stuff, Daniel. Get with the program, son. So we actually covered the end bit off at the start of this episode. Very, very good. And Christy, Solomon's asked about doing yawns for the entire season. Christy, if you want to, you can give us your yawns for the entire series and see what we say about that. I mean, it's a lot to cover off because it goes for 12 episodes, but yeah.
I have a question for you, Dags. At the beginning of this series, you said, I don't know how much I'm looking forward to this. I hope it hasn't got Rugrats in again, because I'm sick of all these series with kids in. So this obviously totally defied the expectation that the other Star Wars series has set up. What did you think of this as an entire series?
What you said makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you, right? A lot of people say their favorite series is like something like Mandalorian, but the best series is Andor. How do I explain it? I thought it was excellent. I really did. I really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it. There's a lot to digest. I don't know if you sat through 11 hours of it straight, it'd probably be a little bit draining because, once you put all the episodes together. No, I thought it was excellent, but I could also see why or where things could be improved. I mean, there were some out. I mean, to be fair, there were some bits that were quite slow. I mean, there's some bits we didn't even cover off, like our Cassian's sister, Kerry. All those flashbacks from way back when, they kind of went nowhere. So there's a few parts that you could certainly change and move around. But in terms of its quality and how it's been presented and all the rest of it, I couldn't fault it. I thought it was fantastic. So I was very happy with how it all came about. So, it worked for me. Good stuff. And Christy once again has said, oh, hang on, 4 yawns. So there we go. Once again, it's a 6 out of 10 for the entire series, which is kind of good because there are a couple of episodes that Christy wasn't happy with. So that is very good stuff. As we've said, yeah, it wasn't her cup of tea. And we mentioned that a long time ago. Christy was very upfront about that and said it wasn't really her show. A lot of people have said that. It's not their Star Wars. So I do applaud Christy for sticking with it because it clearly has divided the fan community in a big way. But what it has done is that people who were skeptical about the show years ago, when it started, just didn't give a shit about it. As we said in the very first episode of our review, so nobody even wants this show, but now have all started to swing over. And I've read a lot of reviews from people who've said, "Oh, man, it's the best. It's the ants pants," and which is fantastic. It's what you want. It's very refreshing, I think, is the term that everybody's used. So, best story, acting, and writing by a light year. Greg has said loved it, eager for season 2. Well, they've produced season 2. In fact, season 2 got given the green light before season 1 even aired. That doesn't happen very often, does it? For the series, the writing was 5 yawns, cinematography 0, which is 10 out of 10. Special effects 10 out of 10. Well done. So there you go. That's excellent. And as we said, from the quality of the characters, the writing, and especially the dialogue, you're hard pressed to find faults with all that. And you get to see the journey that all these characters are taking, which is absolutely fantastic. So there you go.
And I think it is one of the few series where everyone got equal time and it all wound up satisfactory at the end. And I can't wait to see what happens next year. And it is called Andor, but it could have just as easily been called Mothma. It could have just as easily been called Deirdre, because they all had fantastic character arcs that are compelling to watch.
Tracy said it could be like Firefly. Years later, it could become a cult show. What some people have said is that whether the model of this show, the really dark, gritty, hardcore writing, will appear in other shows in the future, or will Lucasfilm/Disney just go, no, let's stick with the fluff? And the reason why you would do that, so using Mandalorian season 3 and all these other shows, is because that's what brings in the crowds, the audience, the public, and the money, right? Andor, one, has alienated some Star Wars fans. It is not for the kids, and it is not for the public, right? So you're limiting your audience potential, and when you do that, you limit your income. And in the grand scheme of things, if somebody with the powers that be said, what's more important, an awesome show with a fantastic story or a fluffy show that brings in the dollars, chances are they'll go the fluffy show every day of the week. So Andor's had a time, because it was originally meant to be 5 seasons. I think they've cut it down to 2, probably for that very reason. They said it's great, awesome, but we want the money. And unfortunately, I think that future shows will follow the format of Obi-Wan and Boba Fett and Mandalorian. So, yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I do wonder if it was meant to be 4 years of 6 episodes and they just joined them together, because it does feel like the raid at the middle of the season could have been a series climax as well. But I guess that's one of those things that we don't know.
Well, the 5 seasons were meant to lead into Rogue One, and now they've got to condense that into 1 season. And there's a theory going around that it'd be like every 3 episodes represents a year, and then the next 3 represents a year, and so on. I don't know. But excuse me. I mean, I know that the series that they're producing in the next couple of years, Acolyte, which is about I assume it's a dark side apprentice or a Sith apprentice or whatever, pre-Phantom Menace. If they were to do that like this show, really, really dark and gritty, it'd be fantastic. But as I said, that doesn't bring in the money or the fans.
Well,
or the kids.
The next show will be a money pleaser because it's Ahsoka, isn't it? And that's before season 3 of The Mandalorian, and that's coming pretty soon.
Sorry, I missed the first bit you said. What'd you say?
The next show will be a money spinner. It's a more popular one because it's based on Ahsoka.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's exactly right. So you can understand the perspective of these things. So in the end, it's lucky they did Andor this way. I was really concerned when I first heard about it. I said, if they give it the Disney-verse treatment, I'm going to be crying my eyes out, and they didn't. So for that perspective, I'm very happy with what they did. They showed a bit of darkness, a bit of grittiness, even if it did alienate a whole lot of fans. So in the end, I'm walking away happy. And I'm rapt that all these people jumped on board with it as well. Because as we said originally, a lot of people didn't care about it. Now, all of a sudden, there's fans everywhere. And as we mentioned here in this series, people said it's the best thing. Was it Colin said? Yeah, best series that Disney have produced. Absolutely fantastic. And who knows? Maybe the fan reaction will be enough to convince Lucasfilm/Disney to say, oh, hang on, maybe with some shows we can go back down this path again. But
who knows?
In the end, though, when we get back to Mandalorian, Grogu is going to be back, and Din's going to be back. All the boring dialogue is going to be back. The predictability is going to be back. You can bet your bottom dollar, mate. They're just going to be flying around here, there, and everywhere, saving the day. It's like, oh, boring as batshit, but it will look good, and it will bring in the kids and the money. So there you go. Very good. Very good. Andor may appeal to, I think it's supposed to be some Star Wars fans because of the more serious stuff, and it has, right? So that's the thing. It has actually done that, but it won't be enough to generate this sort of storyline for future shows. So there you go. That's it for us. It's an hour and 50 minutes for us. It's been a long one, but it's been a good one. Mr. Aaron, so what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's been a good year. I think we've discussed this. I don't know if we had finalized anything. There might be one more episode before the end of the year of DNA reviews where we do a review of the year, maybe our favorite and least favorite programs and movies. So you've got that to look ahead to if you like spending the night chatting about movies and TV with us.
Yes, DNA reviewing 2022. Won't that be a hoot? Including our top 5 of movies and or TV shows that we've loved. And that should be very interesting because I've got no idea what Aaron's going to say. Chrissy's asking if we're going to go reviewing other shows like Willow, hint, hint. Yeah, I don't know. I was like, Willow, good. There you go. Very, very good. So that's it for us. After 12 episodes and friggin', was it like nearly 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is, we are about to buzz off out of here. You can have your Monday nights back again, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. I hope you got something out of us. I know we go through it fast. I speak quickly. If anything, just listen to Aaron. Just mute me out. That's the way to go. And we will leave you to it. Andor Series 1, absolutely awesome. And we'll leave you to it. So there you go. And don't forget, in-universe dating time, CRC, all right? 9777? No, 7977. That's when the New Hope takes place. Woo! Mate, you learned something.
Isn't that amazing? That's also Dags's PIN number for his account.
Absolutely fantastic. There you go. All right, we'll leave you to it, guys. Party hard, rock on, and we'll see you hopefully in a couple of weeks' time for the review of 2022. Okay, take care.
Have a good night.